What's happening? Good Friday to all of you. Thanks for joining me as always. It is very much appreciated. We all love Fridays. And if you're in New England this weekend, looks like it's going to be absolutely beautiful. Battle of 1 and 5 teams in London on Sunday morning. We will get to the preview. We will get to my prediction. But before that, let's hit some of the news. We start with Drake Maye. Drake Maye got an MRI on his knee, reportedly, from Ben Volen of the Boston Globe. By the way, Gerard Mayo did not deny this morning that Drake Maye had an MRI on his knee. So if you are taking anything from that, certainly sounds like it's a possibility that happened, if not probability. And it would have happened on Wednesday before they flew out to get to London. So Maye gets the MRI on his knee, seems to check out. Vidarian Lowe, he's out with an ankle. Mike Reese reported that he'll be back in the near future. It's just an ankle sprain, which is very good news. Ramondre Stevenson made the trip, and he practiced today. That's good news. The Jaguars, meanwhile, they're having a rough time. They traded Roy Robertson Harris this week for a 6th-round pick in the future. It was actually last week, but you get the point. Andre Cisco came out after losing that game last week against the Chicago Bears and said that the team, quote, had lots of quit, unquote. So Jacksonville's pretty rocky right now. A lot of questions about Doug Peterson, some questions about Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars, meanwhile, they stayed in London for the past 2 weeks, which should give them theoretically a big travel advantage. So those are some news and notes. Before we get into this breakdown, let me jump first to a $10 super chat from our friend Charlie. Thank you for the super chat, Charlie. As always, I appreciate the 10. This is our Super Bowl. Let's go, Patriots. I don't know. I don't want to say it's our Super Bowl because that's just absolutely brutal, but you might not be wrong. This might be the Super Bowl for the Patriots. All right, let's get into it. And let's start with the Patriots offense because I know a lot of you are excited about Drake Maye. You should be excited about Drake Maye. Gave you hope, gave you encouragement from last week's loss against Houston. Even though they lost by 20, you walked away and said, hey, Drake Maye, he made some plays, and he gives us a chance to win in the future. And he looks like he could be that guy. Very early, but it looks like he could be that guy, and many people are excited. So now Maye starts this weekend in London against the Jaguars Sunday morning. As I mentioned, he had an MRI reportedly on the knee. Everybody at practice yesterday said Drake Maye looked absolutely fine at practice. He looked fine at practice today, according to those who were there in person, taking videos, taking pictures. He has no visible brace on his knee, which is good news. He has practiced fully all week, which would be another indication that he is healthy. Alex Van Pelt came out this week and said that the things that were going on with his knee, how they were handling it, it was all precautionary. So there doesn't seem to be a lot of concern about Maye's knee. There doesn't seem to be any talk about a serious knee injury. Did he sprain it? Did he ding it? I think that much is understood, but it doesn't seem at this moment to be a serious problem. So we have to go into Sunday believing Drake Maye will mostly look like the guy that he looked like on Sunday against Houston from a health standpoint. So that's very good news. Now, if you go by the numbers, if you're just looking at the numbers in this matchup, this should be a fantastic day for Maye. Because when you look at Jacksonville, they are literally one of the worst defenses in football. By DVOA standards, they are the worst defense in football. But when you look at the Jaguars against the pass, their pass defense has been wretched. Let me run through some numbers for you. They are 30th in pressure rate, so they're not getting at the quarterback. 31st in pass rush win rate, another number that should tell you they're not getting after the quarterback enough. They are 30th in EPA versus the play action. So when teams have gone to the play action, they have absolutely eaten up, munched on this Jaguars pass defense. 32nd in total DVOA, 32nd in EPA per dropback. So again, we are talking about one of the worst pass defenses in football, and now Drake Maye gets his second start against that defense. What does Jacksonville do? They're number 1 in cover 2. They're number 4 in man coverage. So they play a lot of man coverage, And when they're not in man coverage, when they play zone, they play a lot of cover two. You get that two shell, two safeties in the back. Now, what will Jacksonville do against the Patriots? It's a fascinating question because last week we talked about this. When you look at what Maye did against Houston, Maye played much better against man coverage than Jacoby Brissett ever did this season. So now teams, if you're going to play man, including that Kayshon Boutte touchdown over the top, if you're going to play man, you have to think in the back of your head, well, now Drake Maye can beat us if we play man. We weren't so worried about that with Jacoby Brissett. So how much man coverage does Jacksonville play? Again, they play the fourth highest amount of man in the league. Will that continue? Will that trend continue this weekend? If they play man coverage, I would expect Drake Maye to take plenty of deep shots. I would expect him to throw the football down the field. I would also expect him against man coverage to try to beat those guys on in-breakers, which, Maye loves throwing the football in the middle of the field. So those in-breaks from the wide receivers, maybe some opportunity against man coverage. What do I think Jacksonville is going to do? My gut tells me that Jacksonville is going to play plenty of zone. I'll tell you why. When you play zone coverage, you're forcing the quarterback to dink and dunk his way down the field. And I think Jacksonville will play a decent amount of zone on Sunday because they are going to want to test two things from Maye. They want to test his accuracy, especially intermediate and even closer to the line of scrimmage. They want to see if Drake Maye can consistently, we talked about the footwork, we talked about him missing some easy ones. He did it at UNC, he did it against Houston. And I think Jacksonville will go into this game saying, prove it to us. Prove, Drake, that you can consistently be accurate to these receivers 10 yards, 15 yards, and in. I think they're going to force Maye to try to dink and dunk his way down the field because not only does it test your accuracy, it also tests your patience. Second NFL start. Will Drake consistently be patient in the pocket? So I anticipate the Jaguars playing a decent amount of zone coverage and testing Maye's patience and testing his accuracy. I have a lot more thoughts on this football game, but let me jump to another super chat, $5 super chat from After the Huddle. Appreciate the $5. In here like swimwear. Also, shout out to Mrs. Teresa for dropping in our pod to show love. Nice. So Terry dropped by. Love to see that. If we end with a top 5 pick, do we trade down with quarterback needy teams? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the draft right now. But if you do end up with a top 5 pick, I think you do one of two things. You either draft the top left tackle that's available if you think that tackle will be gone by the time you traded down to wherever you traded down to. If you think the top 1 or 2 tackles, Campbell, Banks, others, if you think one of the top 2 tackles is still going to be available to you at the spot you drop down to, then the best scenario is you trade down, you pick up extra draft capital, and you draft yourself the future left tackle with that first-round pick. But I would not sacrifice an opportunity to land the best left tackle in the draft to drop down a few slots to pick up that extra draft capital. I think the number one priority for this football team going into the offseason is find yourself a franchise left tackle, and you do that. The best way you can do that is via the draft. It's not free agency. It's not trades. The best way to find your future left tackle, the guy who's going to be there for the next 10 to 15 years, is you go into the first round with that priority and you draft that guy. Now, if you can get the best of both worlds, then you do it. All right, back to the Patriots offense versus the Jaguars defense. If I'm right, if Jacksonville leans on zone play because they want Drake Maye to be patient and they want to make sure that he can be accurate consistently enough, 10, 15 yards and in. If they do play that zone coverage an awful lot, this could open up the run game for the Patriots. And so when you have those light boxes, you can attack those light boxes with your run game, which brings us to Ramondre Stevenson. Stevenson is a game-time decision. If Stevenson plays on Sunday, I think that gives this offense a big boost. And I think we saw that last week. Antonio Gibson is good. He's not great. He's a really good third down back to me, even though his pass protection could be better. I think they should be using him more as a receiver. Not sure why they're not. Maybe that will change. But Ramondre Stevenson, his ability with his contact balance to pick up those extra yards after contact, to make those kinds of game-changing plays that he can make at any moment. He's not a top 5 running back. He might not even be a top 10 running back. When he's healthy, though, he's damn good. And Stevenson in this matchup could help. Because when you look at the Jaguars' rush defense, again, their pass defense is terrible. Their rush defense, it's interesting. They're 10th in yards per carry. They give up 4.3 yards a carry. But when you look at the run rate of the opposition, teams are not running against the Jaguars. Why? Because they see the Jaguars' piss poor pass defense, and they say, why are we going to sit here and try to run the football a ton when we can attack these guys and attack their lack of discipline? Because that's what really hurts the Jaguars' defense, their lack of discipline. They're too aggressive. They're undisciplined. They give up big plays. So when you look at this, the run game, it's not that. It's not that the Jaguars have been awesome at stopping the run. They're 25th in run stop win rate. It's just teams are not running against them a ton. And so it would seem to me that when teams run the football against the Jaguars, it's very likely predictable when they run the football because the Jaguars know opposing teams want to attack them with the pass. So I do think there are some possibilities here in the run game, and there are possibilities within the run game, especially through Drake Maye. We talked about Drake Maye's athleticism, his ability to make defenders miss, his ability to make plays with those legs. We saw it a little bit last week. But the Jaguars' defense against running quarterbacks, the Jaguars' defense against scrambling quarterbacks has been awful. They're 28th in football against the scramble. This is the perfect game where Maye can buy time. He can scramble around. He can pick up extra yards with his legs. It's a 3rd and 5. Everybody's covered. Drake takes off, gets 7 yards, extends the drive. The Jaguars have had a terrible time of slowing down quarterbacks that can run. Last week, Caleb Williams, he ran for 56 yards. 56 yards for Caleb Williams. Now, the biggest question is Drake Maye's knee. Again, people say he looks fine. Looks like he's healthy. He's not wearing a brace. But the question is, will Alex Van Pelt be confident enough to design runs for Drake Maye? Will he include some of those read options that we didn't see a ton last week? Will they take advantage of Maye's ability athletically on Sunday, or will they feel we can't put Drake Maye in a position to take more hits? Because that knee, he's healthy, but that knee is dinged up. And we don't want to take the extra risk with running him out there, right? I don't know the answer to that question. We'll have to watch to see how it plays out. But what I can tell you is if Van Pelt and this team is absolutely confident that Drake Maye can be the same Drake Maye he's been since he was drafted, and the athleticism will not be impacted whatsoever by this knee issue, then they will run the football, and they should run the football with Maye. They should have designed runs within this game plan for Maye because this is the defense that you can take advantage of doing just that. I've got more thoughts on the offense against the Jaguars defense, but let me jump to another super chat. Anthony Bennett, $5 super chat. Thank you, Anthony, for the 5. Can we finally see some passion and emotion on the sideline? Too many players seem to be fine with playing bad or committing penalties. Interesting. I mean, I haven't been to a game, so I don't know what the sideline looks like live at the game. You know, when you see shots of the sidelines, when you watch these games, a lot of times it's after, bad plays or they're questioning something, which usually isn't the best moment to see the sideline lively. I will say the video that was released by the Patriots this week, you did see a lot of life on the sidelines, especially for Drake Maye, especially from the wide receivers. Now, of course, that is a team-released video, so they're going to highlight some of the very best moments. I think this team, as far as energy goes, I think they're okay, given that they're 1-5. Now, if they lose this game and they continue to lose, then the life on the sidelines might not be great. But I do think Drake Maye, starting last week, gave this team a little bit of a boost as far as morale and energy and vibe. And if he goes out there and plays well on Sunday, then that should continue. Thanks for the 5, Anthony. Again, it's much appreciated. All right, before I give you more thoughts about this Patriots offense against the Jaguars defense, couple of things. Got to give you the sell here. The sell job, as always, doesn't cost you any money, doesn't cost you a ton of time, but you can help us out by clicking the thumb on the lovely YouTube podcast channel here. Give us that thumbs up as you're watching this video. All the thumbs helps us out. More likes means more eyeballs. Again, we're trying to beat that algorithm. And if you can comment, what do you expect from Drake Maye in his second start? Are you concerned about Drake Maye's knee? Are you excited about this specific matchup? Throw a comment in there, whether you're watching live or on demand. Likes and comments help build traffic, helps us beat that algorithm. And while you're here, if you love what we do, don't forget to subscribe. You can also hit that notify bell. We are now over 4,500 subscribers. We made a pretty good jump over the last 24 hours or so. The next goal is 5,000 subscribers. We can get to that number with your support. And as I say it all the time, I appreciate every single one of you who watch this podcast, who listen to this podcast, the Spotify, Apple Pod people who rate and review. You are why I am able to still be doing this. So I appreciate every one of you. Let's continue to drive this together. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. All right, let's wrap up with a couple more points on the offense before we get to the defense. Offensive line. Gerard Mayo came out today and said that Layden Robinson is going to play on Sunday. Now, since the coach said that, I think it's rather obvious we should expect Mike Onwenu back at right tackle. I don't think they want to play Onwenu at right tackle. Scott Peters just said, the offensive line coach, in the last 10 days to 2 weeks, he just told us they believe Onwenu is a better guard than tackle. But they're in a spot because of all of these injuries to the offensive line. This will be the 7th different starting combination on the O-line in 7 games. They have been incapable of staying healthy. It's frustrating. But because of that, I think they move Onwenu to right tackle. They move Demontre Jacobs to left tackle. And then you will have Layden Robinson at right guard. I think that will be your offensive line. And, of course, at left guard, you'll have Michael Jordan, who's been pretty damn good. And you will have Ben Brown, who was a great story last week, at center. So I think that's what your offensive line will look like on Sunday morning. Now, here's the issue. Evan Lazar writes this about the Jaguars defensive ends. Josh Hines-Allen, who used to be Josh Allen, changed his last name because he got sick and tired, I think, of being called Josh Allen with Josh Allen in Buffalo. Josh Hines-Allen, he'll be the guy going against Trey Jacobs. Explosive dude off the edge. And Evan Lazar said he's ranked 12th among all defenders with 24 quarterback pressures. So on a team that doesn't get a lot of quarterback pressure, Josh Hines-Allen gets a lot of quarterback pressure. And he's going to be the guy that's going against Trey Jacobs. That's a scary proposition for the Patriots. Hines-Allen, according to Lazar, likes to win with speed, using a chop rip, explosive inside-out rush. Hines-Allen and Travon Walker are the potential game wreckers on the Jaguars defense. Now, Walker, he'll be going against Mike Onwenu. Walker's a former number 1 pick, hasn't really produced like a number 1 pick, but he's still incredibly athletic. He has 23 quarterback pressures and 5 sacks this season. So Walker and Hines-Allen is this team's pass rush. Those two guys, even though the overall pressure rate has not been great, Hines-Allen and Walker have a bunch of pressures. Almost 50 combined pressures from those two edges. And Walker has 5 sacks. And he's capable of, as Evan writes, of having huge games. Against Indianapolis, Walker had 3 sacks and 7 quarterback pressures. And so that will, of course, beg the question, can Mike Onwenu hold his side of the bargain against Walker? And is Alex Van Pelt, this has been a big complaint by me and others. It's driven me crazy all year long. You know what I'm going to say if you've watched or listened to this enough. Is Alex Van Pelt actually going to help his backup left tackle, his 4th or 5th string left tackle? Jacobs should be getting help against Hines-Allen on Sunday. And if he's not, it's again irresponsible from the play caller. It is a dereliction of duty by Alex Van Pelt if he doesn't help out Trey Jacobs in that matchup against Josh Hines-Allen, especially on 3rd down. big plays. You need to help Jacobs on Sunday. Can't say it enough. And hopefully he doesn't. Another interesting point about this game is Gerard Mayo came out and said that there are going to be changes happening. Many people were wondering, what will those changes be? On offense, I do wonder if we'll see less Jalen Polk. Couple of drops last week. Mayo came out and said he's going to get past the mental hurdle. So do they play less Polk? Do they put less on Polk when he's out there? I thought this was interesting. Alex Van Pelt said the team put a lot on Polk's plate, highlights him in a lot of progressions. They're now looking to spread out those responsibilities and potentially lighten the load on Polk moving forward. So Van Pelt says we're asking too much for Polk. We're putting too much on his shoulders. We made him the priority almost in the passing game, and that sounds good. But maybe because we put so much on him, he's pressing a little bit, and now he's not playing like he's capable of playing. So we're going to lighten that load. So I would not be surprised if you see less of Jalen Polk on Sunday until he gets his rhythm back, until he starts making some plays and feels better about himself. I would not be surprised by that at all. Let's jump to another super chat after the huddle. $5 super chat. Breakout game for Hunter. The Jags did just give up 2 touchdowns to Cole Kmet. Shout out Notre Dame tight ends, program of tight ends. We've been teams get right game. The Jags very well could be our get right game. Could be. I mean, I think the Jaguars are looking at the Patriots as the get right game for them. And I said that earlier this week. You know, we look at these other teams and go, man, the Patriots' schedule is going to be softer. Yeah, they're going to be playing teams that are not as good as the teams they played earlier this year up to this point. But those other teams, they're looking at the Patriots as the soft landing spot. They're looking at the Patriots as their get-right game. And I think the Jaguars could be looking at the Pats as the get-right game on their side of things. But this is, no doubt, one of those games. I mean, Miami is one of those games that you regret losing, especially at home, especially against Snoop Huntley. That loss should have never happened. But now this is another game that you feel like you could win. This is absolutely a winnable game. Will they do it? I'll give you my thoughts on that a little bit later. But again, thanks for the 5 after the huddle. It is much appreciated. So I think you could see less Polk, which means more Kendrick Bourne, more Kayshon Boutte. You might even see some KJ Osborne out there. I would not be surprised if on Sunday, AVP pretty much leans into Bourne, Boutte, Osborne, and, you know, you sprinkle in some Polk until he starts to figure it out. You could also see some personnel groupings change, you know? Do they decide to play Austin Hooper less after the fumble last week? Do you play more 11 personnel? If you play more 11 personnel, that means you get Pop Douglas on the field more. But it also means you're going to run the football less. So will Van Pelt go with more 11 personnel, play Pop Douglas, and sit Austin Hooper down? At least a little bit. If I'm the Patriots with this matchup, I want Pop Douglas on the field as much as I can get Pop Douglas on the field. Not just because of what he did last week, not just because he's your best wide receiver right now, but also when you look at the Jaguars, they've had major issues against slot receivers. Evan Lazar writes that the Jaguars are allowing a league worst 128.3 passer rating to slot receivers. Slot receivers this year against the Jaguars have 45 catches, 458 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Slot receivers have killed the Jags. Your best receiver is your slot receiver. I'd be shocked if Pop Douglas doesn't play well on Sunday. I'd be shocked if he's not a big part of this game plan. He should be a big part of this game plan. And if he's not, again, we have to look at Alex Van Pelt. The Jaguars, critical times, they haven't been great. Their defense is 25th on third down, and they are the worst red zone defense in football. Patriots are the worst red zone offense in football. So the worst red zone offense against the worst red zone defense. Who wins? Who wins the poop bowl of the red zone? The Patriots, if they get into the red zone, they have to finish these drives. Even though they're the worst red zone offense in football, they're playing against a defense that has not been able to stop teams from scoring. You need to finish the drives. All right. We get to Patriots defense versus Jags offense. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. Help a brother out. The Patriots, and I know they've got injuries and all this stuff, but they have been awful defensively. And they've got too much talent on the field to be that awful. They're 29th in defensive DVOA. They have to be better. They have to be better. Jags offense. Is Trevor Lawrence good? There seems to be a little bit of a back and forth about Trevor Lawrence. If you look at some numbers, he's 28th in completion percentage over expected, for example. He's 22nd in EPA. Is it the team or is it the quarterback? Well, it's obviously both. Which is more to blame? You can read people like Evan Lazar who says, look, it's not about Trevor Lawrence as much as it is about the program around him. Not that he doesn't have talent around him. He certainly does. But wide receivers, for example, have dropped 14 passes this season, according to Evan. It's tied for the second most in the NFL. They've been inconsistent. But Lawrence has also been inconsistent. And he has some bad turnovers on his resume. But wide receivers have been dropping passes all year long for him. Now, I do think the Jags, they present some headaches for the Patriots defense. Jonathan Jones last week in man coverage was bad. He got taken to the woodshed by Tank Dell. And what you have this weekend, it kind of reminds me of that Jets game when you had bigger receivers on the outside. And what the Jets did, what Aaron Rodgers did was, hey, look, we're going to attack your smaller corners, right? If you have Marcus Jones or you have Jonathan Jones on one of our big receivers, we're going to throw the football right to that receiver, and we're going to allow that receiver the opportunity to use his size and strength to just beat you. And I would not be surprised if we see some of that this weekend, because when you look at it, Gabe Davis is 6'2". Brian Thomas Jr. is 6'3". So they have two big outside receivers. It would not surprise me whatsoever if they try to attack those smaller corners of the Patriots when they get those matchups, especially Jonathan Jones. I think they're going to try to attack the smaller corners with their bigger receivers. They might try to get, one of their bigger receivers lined up in the slot against Marcus Jones. They're going to try to do some of what the Jets did, I think, and utilize the strength and the size of their wide receiver core. That's a tough matchup for the Patriots. Christian Gonzalez should be fine, but the other guys, tough matchup. Christian Kirk is their slot receiver. Not an easy guy to defend. The Jags also have Evan Engram at tight end. He's a very talented guy. Boneheaded turnover last week by him. Bad fumble from him. But he is a talented dude. And we know that the Patriots, they have had struggles against tight ends, trying to defend tight ends. So who is going to cover Evan Engram? Is Taki going to cover Engram? Is Kyle Duggar? Do you try to throw Isaiah Bolden out there as that bigger, stronger cornerback to try to defend Evan Engram? Jalen Hawkins, does he draw the assignment? I'm fascinated to see how the Patriots plan on defending Engram, because he could be a major headache for them on Sunday. Major headache. Another point. Will Doug Peterson commit to the run against the Patriots? The Patriots, as we know, they've been putrid against the run. Back-to-back weeks of over 190 rushing yards. Do the Jaguars go into the game on Sunday saying, we're going to run the football? We're going to run the football down your throat, because they've thrown the football an awful lot. When you look at what the Jaguars do, they love throwing the football. But will they change that this weekend because of the matchup? Now, when Jacksonville has run, this is very interesting to me. When Jacksonville runs the ball, they've been very successful at it. They have the 12th success rate in football, the 12th highest success rate when running the ball. They are second. Jacksonville is second in yards per carry at over 5 yards a carry, 5.3. But the devil is in the details. Are they running the football so well because their offensive line has been great? Or are they running the football well because their running backs have been really good? Here are some numbers. The Jaguars' offensive line is 25th in run block win rate, according to ESPN. So they have one of the worst run O-lines in football. 25th in run block win rate. They also have the 4th worst yards before contact per carry. So what does that mean? It means even though they've had a high success rate, even though they have the 2nd best yards per carry mark in football, it's not because the offensive line has been creating these massive holes. Because when you look at it, 25th in run block win rate, offensive line is losing a lot in the run game. 4th worst yards before contact per carry. So these running backs are getting contacted almost immediately when they get the football. So why is the run game good? The Jaguars are number 1 in rushing yards after contact per carry. I told you that they average 5.3 yards per carry. 4.5 of those yards, 4.5 of the 5.3 yards per carry after contact. When you look at their rushing yards over expected, which is how many yards should that running back have actually gotten on that run play? The Jaguars are 3rd in the NFL in rushing yards over expected. Almost 200 more rushing yards from the running backs they've gotten than they should have gotten. So why is the run game good? Because the running backs have been pretty damn good. The running backs have been able to get those yards over expected. Those running backs are averaging 4.5 yards per carry after contact. That's why the run game is 12th in success rate. That's why the run game is 2nd in yards per carry in the entire league. So does Doug Peterson lean on that as a play caller, right? Is he looking at that saying to himself, hey, this is what we should be doing as an offense. We should be running the football 40 times against this defense on Sunday. Or does he want to throw the football because they love throwing the football? The numbers, of course, let's not forget, for Miami and Houston before they played the Patriots, their run games weren't good. You could look at the analytics just as I did with Jacksonville. You could look at some of the analytics, most of the analytics for Miami and Houston, and both of those teams were struggling to run the football. When they faced the Patriots, it was like a freaking parade out there. They love running the football. So if I'm the Patriots, I have to be ready. I have to be ready for the Jaguars to run the football a lot on Sunday, because as a defense, they've given up more than 190 yards in back-to-back weeks. So what does that mean? Well, it means the Patriots, their run fits, linebackers, shoot the right gaps, right? Defensive linemen, hold steady. Devon Godshaw has been great against the run. The other guys have to step up against the run. Keon White has to be better against the run. So the run fits mean something, and also the tackling. We've talked about some of the issues, uncharacteristically this year, the Patriots have had in tackling guys. We talk about the yards after contact from these running backs. You better tackle well on Sunday, because if you don't tackle well on Sunday, Jacksonville's going to get a bunch of big plays on you. A bunch of big plays. Speaking of explosive plays, could be the biggest difference maker in this game. Could be the difference maker in this game. Greg Bedard, my buddy, who I do the podcast with, he wrote this week, the Patriots are now 13th in the league with an average of 6.5 explosive plays allowed per game. They've given up almost 7.5 explosive plays per game since week 1's win against Cincinnati. If you were wondering, last season the Patriots led the league with just 5.2 explosive plays allowed per game. So the Patriots defense, they're giving up way too many explosive plays, especially since week 1. And when you look at what the Jaguars have done as an offense, this is from Football Insights. The Jaguars, they're tied for 8th in the league in explosive play rate. Over 10% of their plays have been explosive plays. So if you think about big plays, making big plays, stopping big plays, the Patriots since week 1 have given up a bunch of explosive plays. The Jaguars are in the top 10 in football in explosive plays. Not a great combination. If you're wondering, the Patriots offense, 26th in explosive plays. That, of course, should go up with Drake Maye. Last week, they had a bunch of explosive plays compared to what they did the first 5 weeks of the season. So that number should be better with Drake Maye at quarterback. But big plays could be the difference. Patriots defense has been giving up big plays. Jaguars offense, full of big plays. You've got to be able to make sure you're not giving up chunks of yardage on Sunday. in the run game, in the pass game. Mayo, the changes, I think you should expect, and DeMarcus Covington talked about this a little bit, Christian Ellis. I think Christian Ellis ends up playing over Raekwon McMillan. McMillan's has been terrible against the run. And I think you'll see a little bit more of Sione Takitaki as he gets back to feeling the groove and feeling comfortable about his body and getting back to football. I think you'll see more of Takitaki. Andrew Callahan wonders if you'll see less of Dietrich Wise, who has not been getting after the quarterback. So there could be some changes defensively. I don't think there'll be massive changes. Not massive ones. All right, let's jump to another super chat. $2 super chat from After the Huddle. Thanks, ATH. Run defense with Bentley, 58 yards without 168 yards. Bentley makes a difference. There's no doubt, but they still have enough talent. McMillan, again, he's just been bad. Their run fits have been terrible. Some of this stuff is fixable. It's fixable, and it's now on the coaching staff. It's now on DeMarcus Covington. So make the changes. Put Ellis in there. Put Takitaki in there. Maybe play Mapu a little bit at linebacker. Maybe you put Duggar in the box. Do something, because the Raekwon McMillan experiment has failed, especially against the run. It has straight up failed. So you got to make some changes, and I think that's one of the changes they will make. And if they don't, man, oh man, that is malpractice by DeMarcus Covington and Gerard Mayo. All right, going to get to my prediction coming up in a minute, of course. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. Help a guy out. Patriots fans out there, if you want a different voice, I try to be your different voice. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 p.m. live every week on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. Rate and review over at Spotify and Apple Pods. We continue to grow this podcast. As again, we're getting to 5,000 subscribers, hopefully sooner rather than later. So continue to tell your friends, family, and fellow Pats fans. All right. Before we get to the prediction, Terry Grant drops in with a $50 super chat. Terry, thank you so much. You were there last night for Crafts and Kickoffs, which, by the way, is my NFL podcast I do on Thursday nights at 7. We drink beer, whatever beverage you're into. For me, it's beer. I drink a craft beer on Thursday nights at 7. And we go over 5 of the top NFL storylines. That podcast is picking up a little bit of steam on YouTube, so check it out Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. Terry, thank you for the $50 super chat. It just, again, your generosity. And we continue to build this, and this podcast continues to do well. I'm going to have to upgrade the equipment and start adding some bells and whistles. So when people drop a $50 super chat like Terry, we drop the super chat bell and whistle, whatever that would be. And Terry, yes, Diet Pepsi is Terry's drink to go. She goes wild with the Diet Pepsi on Thursday night. All right, let's talk about this prediction, the spread, the prediction. Mike Giardi posted this week. The Patriots have not lost 6 consecutive games since 1993. It's been 31 years. I feel like that GIF on Twitter. It's been 80 years. It's been over 30 years since the last time we saw a Patriots team lose 6 consecutive games. Of course, they can do that by losing on Sunday. The spread that I saw is 6 points, minus 6 points for the Jaguars. So the Jaguars are favorites by 6 points. Interesting number. The Texans last week were favorites by 6.5. A lot of people would say the Texans are a much better team than the Jaguars. So interesting. You've got the over-under at, I think it's 42.5. I will say this up front. This game is incredibly tough to call. Why? Because you've got 2 teams who have not played well. You have 2 teams that are undisciplined. The Jaguars are the more talented team. If you look at these teams on paper, Jacksonville is more talented than the Patriots. There's really not even much of a debate about that. So when you look at this matchup, you've got 2 teams who are 1-5. You don't know how they're going to come out, right? The Patriots traveling to London, and the Jaguars have been there for 2 weeks. How much will that impact the game? Then you look at just the situations in each organization, right? The Patriots 1-5. You had the Christian Barmore story this week. Seems like things are somewhat unraveling. For the Jaguars, you have Andre Cisco, not with the thong song, but you got Cisco out there saying that he saw lots of quit from the Jaguars. Doug Peterson might get fired if the Jags lose on Sunday. So I don't know what to expect from these teams. I don't know if the Jaguars are going to come out fighting for their head coach. I don't know if Cisco calling them out is going to result in them playing better, more disciplined football. I don't know if the Patriots and some of these changes, some of these tweaks with Drake Maye coming back for his second start, I don't know how the Patriots are going to approach this game. Maye's first game in London, so I don't know. Mayo's first game in London as a head coach, a lot of the staff and their positions. So there's just a lot of unpredictability about this football game. I could see Jacksonville get up with big plays and win this game by 10 points, maybe even more. I could see Jacksonville continue to be undisciplined, quit on their coach, and look awful on Sunday. I could see the Patriots go out there and play their best game in quite a while. Behind Drake Maye, feeling good about themselves. Yes, they lost by 20 last week, but in the locker room, guys were feeling pretty good. They feel more confident with Maye. And I could see the Patriots taking advantage of the Jaguars being undisciplined, over-aggressive, and the Jaguars making mistakes. So, incredibly difficult game to call. I'm going to say this. If you're a betting person, I would not bet on this spread. I would not bet on the spread. I feel pretty good about the over, though. Patriots defense has been bad. Jaguars defense is incredibly undisciplined. And Drake Maye, obviously, better than Jacoby Brissett. So I feel pretty good about the over-under number, 42.5. But as far as the spread goes in picking this game, this is the week. And I might regret this, and I probably will. But this is the week. The Patriots get to their second win of the season. They go out in London, and they get the job done. It might not be pretty. Drake Maye might turn the football over once or twice. But I think Drake Maye and some of the changes that this team is going to make from a personnel standpoint will make them good enough to play their best game since maybe going back to Seattle. I think the Patriots are going to play their best game since week 2 against the Seahawks. It's a pretty low bar. It's a pretty low bar. But I'm going to go with the Patriots winning in London. Drake Maye makes just enough plays. Jaguars make just enough mistakes. I've got Patriots 24, Jaguars 20. So I'm going with the Patriots with the points, and I'm going with the over. Am I confident? I am not. Again, I find this game to be very difficult to predict, given all the possible, falling outs of a loss. The Jaguars, if they don't show up for Peterson because they're just done, then it might be easier than I anticipate. But I'm going Patriots 24, Jaguars 20. So I go over, just over by 1.5. I take that 6 points from the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is my prediction. I'm 4-2 against the spread, by the way. 4-2 against the spread. 4-2 straight up, if you were wondering. So hopefully I get to 5-2, not only against the spread, but also straight up with the Patriots beating the Jaguars on Sunday. Don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe to this podcast. Every little bit helps. Your support means the world to me. So don't forget to like this pod, click that thumbs up, throw a comment in there, even if you're watching on demand. Subscribe, rate, review. Charlie jumps in last second, about 5 seconds left on the clock. $10 super chat, money line. So Charlie's going money line. He's going straight up. Money line for the Patriots. That's what I gave you. I said 24-20. 24-20 Patriots. Terry also says, by the way, our friend Ryan, have an amazing time. Ryan's going out there. He's in London. So yes, Ryan, have a fantastic Sunday, and hopefully you bring back a win. Enjoy the morning football on Sunday, bright and early, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. I'll be back here on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, live on YouTube to react and break down the game against the Jaguars. Till then, have a great weekend. Be well. This has been the Nick Cattle Show.